So let's start this webinar by having the panelists introduce themselves. Rainer, want to give us a little bit about you?
Yes, my name is Rainer Jenss. I'm the founder of the Family Travel Association. So I think I'm in the right place. I hope so anyway. I've been, I started the FTA, as it's known, back in 2014. And one of the things that we have done since launching the association, which is really meant to inspire and inform more families about what options that they have when planning their travels and where they can go and what they can do with their kids. We just want to make sure that family travel is well represented in our industry. So we have brought together really the leading authorities, media brands, media individuals, influencers, etc., travel advisors like yourselves into our fold, into our community. And really we're about making connections and making contacts so we can all grow our businesses in family travel. But as I started to say, one of the things that we did at the FTA when we launched was research, just getting us as an industry more familiar with what the consumer was thinking, their behaviors, their attitudes, what are their challenges. You know, family travel is a pretty complex subject. It's not, you know, just kind of as Sally Black, one of our travel advisors who's worked with us for quite some time, said, you know, it's not just a family of 4 in white bikinis running on the beach. You know, there's a lot more going on. And I say that in jest, but if you Google family travel and look at images, they all kind of look the same, but that's not what families really are indicative of, particularly now as we're more multicultural, more accepting of diversity, etc. So there's a lot in this category. It's the largest in the entire industry. So of all leisure travel, family travel represents about 1/3, again, which is bigger than any other segment of the industry. So a lot of opportunity here. And we've brought together, again, kind of the leading authorities in the media space, as well as travel advisors, and of course the suppliers and destinations as well. So that's a pretty long introduction. But one thing I wanted to say about research was that we did not do a research study in 2020. We had done one. We do it together with NYU because the numbers were just so all over the place, and the data would have been irrelevant at this point. In fact, data from a month ago is probably irrelevant, but we'll get more into that later. But I'm happy to be here, thrilled to talk about family travel, and excited that the recovery looks like it's not too far in the distance. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's really a pleasure, and thank you for all that information. It's a great association. I've learned a lot about family travel ever since we partnered with the association. Nicole, want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nicole Thibault. I own a travel agency called Magical Storybook Travels, and my focus is really on family travel, but also travel for families with special needs, and especially autism travel. I have a son with autism, so my passion for helping families with disabilities stems from my own personal experience traveling with my own kids. And I've been doing this now for 7 years, and it's been amazing just helping some of these families take vacations that they didn't think were even possible. So it's been a real joy working in this industry, and also I'm an FTA member, so
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And yes, I always learn a lot when in my conversations with Nicole. And Jessica, welcome.
Hello. Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Jessica Griscavage, and I've been in the industry for 17 years. I was with McCabe World Travel, and this year I ventured off on my own. So Runway Travel started this year, which I'm really proud of. And family travel is something very near and dear to me. I was doing family travel before I had my son, but once I had my son, I realized there was a lot of people who still wanted to travel, but they didn't know how to do it with babies. So that just kind of started my journey with family travel, and it's something that I've always loved. And you know, that stems to multi-generational travel and, you know, traveling with teens and, you know, children with special needs. And I love it all. And I'm also proud to be a member of FTA as well.
Well, thank you, Jessica. Thank you for joining us as well. And I'm gonna
You're
start it
welcome.
off. We have a lot of questions to get through, and then obviously all the questions coming in from the audience. That'll be great as well at the end of this presentation. So Rainer, why don't you let's jump right into it with Rainer. How has family travel and family travelers' expectations changed due to the pandemic?
Well, as I started to say earlier, every year we measure the attitudes, behaviors, expectations of the traveling public, specifically families. And as I mentioned, we did not do that in 2020 because the numbers would have been probably completely irrelevant at this point. And at that time, we're also changing dramatically. I'm happy to report that in terms of their attitudes, they are changing. Longwoods International, which we've partnered with in the past to get us more information and data about the family travel market. They reported yesterday that 87% of American adults plan to travel in the next 6 months. 87% have plans to do so. That's easily a high in the last year. And only a third, and I say only a third, said that the COVID pandemic will impact those plans. So that is at a 1-year low. Long and easy way of saying that it looks like that there is a thawing of the ice, if you will. But in terms of your specific question, how have expectations changed? Something that's always been there when it comes to families is the need for safety. Every parent wants to make sure that their children are safe and will be well taken care of, whether it's with an airline, on a flight, or at a resort or a cruise ship, etc. That is now more important than ever. In fact, safety protocols are a must. Another area of much greater interest is travel insurance.
Yeah.
What are the airlines or resorts or cruise lines cancellation policies? Those are all issues that were there, and now that the attention to those details are incredibly magnified. Travel insurance is another one. I think any supplier in this industry needs to be informed about travel insurance options. They need to understand that the consumer, that parents in particular, want flexibility to be able to change reservations, etc. Those expectations have certainly changed, and attitudes. That is now an expectation, not just a kind of add-on to a trip. So what does all that mean? I think it's really good news for our audience, because the value of working with a travel advisor has also been magnified and really put in the spotlight, because the consumers will look at travel advisors as being their gateway to this information that they may not be able to kind of accumulate or decipher on their own. So I think that does present a bigger challenge and more work for the advisors out there to keep track of all the border closings and regulations that are out there. But I think that's what the consumer is going to demand. But the good news is, as I mentioned with some of the numbers, but the pent-up demand I'm hearing all across the board, and I'm sure our panel will comment on this, is exceptionally strong and deep. And so I love this one quote I heard actually from an advisor who said, one of their clients said, "My best vacation would just be hugging the grandchildren." And that is now more and more possible, thanks, of course, to the vaccine. So the vaccine is another part of this equation as well. I think the expectations are that the vaccine is now giving them a get out of jail pass, that they can finally start to implement some of those plans and those dreams that they've had for so long.
Yeah, those are all amazing points. Those are very, very good points.
But I would urge again the flexibility.
Yeah.
The flexibility of scheduling and cancellation policies, and knowing what these new insurance programs that are being offered, what is it specifically that they offer in terms of protection with COVID, et cetera. That is all now going to be really in the spotlight. And a lot of the insurance companies have changed their language and have put pandemic in there as part of the coverage. So a lot to educate yourself on, but the demand is certainly there.
And what are, I mean, it's a mountain of work now for travel advisors. If they thought they had work prior to COVID, now it's just insane. Jessica, do you have anything to add to all those great points?
Yeah, no, they're all really great points. Actually, and Rainer, to your point earlier, I think I have one left air credit from cancellations from 2020, which I'm thrilled to say because all of these people want to travel again. But it was a lot of work for us, a lot of loss for us. But, you know, what were the rules on the airlines? Were they refunding? Was it a year from ticketing? Was it a year from date of issue? It's a lot for an advisor to keep track of. And I hope what comes out of this is what we did. We were on hold with cruise lines for 2 to 3 hours, you know, getting the information for our clients. So I do hope that, you know, a word on the value of a travel advisor after all of this, because we worked really hard for a lot of loss, but it's coming back. It's really coming back strong.
And Nicole?
I think it's a little tricky with the clients that I serve, the special needs market, just because they're such cautious travelers. There are so many extra things to think about when it comes to traveling with a child with special needs. Just for an example, I was speaking with someone yesterday who was thinking about going to Hawaii. You know, I have to, you know, mention to them, you know, the length of the flight and the regulations about having a COVID test before you go to Hawaii. And then, you know, asking them, you know, will your daughter with autism be able to handle wearing a mask for that long? It's a sensory issue that's very upsetting to someone. Will she be accepting of having a swab test done? So there's a lot of more consideration for a lot of these clients. It's not just should we go or not. It's, you know, can my child handle these kinds of situations that we'll be putting them through to travel? And is it worth it? So having that travel advisor is really important, especially for these clients, because they need to know exactly what they're getting into before they even start planning.
Yeah, I can't imagine in your case, it adds so many layers to already what's there. Yeah, that's incredible. But yeah, a lot of things to consider. And because of the pandemic, we've seen new trends emerge like multi-family travel, schoolcations, and various forms of virtual travel. Do you see these, Jessica, continuing once we're in full recovery mode?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think multi-gen was huge before the pandemic. And to your point, it's even bigger now because these grandparents and children haven't seen their grown-up parents. So they miss each other. You know, it's not just the kids or the grandkids, we haven't seen our parents in a long time. So multi-gen, huge. I think it's going to be really, really big. Where I think we're going to see the trends is, you know, grandma and grandpa want to be vaccinated for sure. And I think we're almost there, I think. But, you know, they want to be alone, but they want to be somewhere. So I'm seeing a big increase in villa rentals and home rentals. And, you know, we want to be at a resort, but we want to be maybe in a residence so we can all, you know, eat meals together. So we are seeing some trends. I mean, certainly there's people out there that are ready for cruises and ready for resorts, but more so than ever, I'm seeing outdoor locations and homes.
Yeah. They want room to roam in the great outdoors, right? Yeah, definitely.
That's very well said. A lot of clients are saying that.
Yeah. And has anyone, Rainer, have you heard anything about the virtual trips that people took, so many last year?
Yeah, I mean, one thing about the virtual world, if you will, is this idea of workations, and not just for the parents, but also for the children. So the, you know, learning remotely was something that I know of a few places, resorts and hotels that kind of capitalized on that idea and offered packages that would allow parents and the children. One of the places in particular that we visited, and I didn't do a heck of a lot of travel in the last 12 months, but we did go to California to visit my son, and stayed at a kind of a guest ranch called Alisal,
Oh, yeah.
and they converted their kids club to a kind of a workstation, a remote school room, really, a remote classroom, and it allowed children to tap into their, virtual classrooms that they could have been doing from home, but were now doing at a resort. So, I'm sure no one wants to kind of see that trend continue for too long in terms of remote learning. But I thought that was very interesting in terms of, how resorts were flexible and responsive to these opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's incredible how they pivoted so quickly and added all these amenities. Yeah, it was really, really amazing. Now, Nicole, you touched on it a little bit, but how have you been, because you focus on families with special needs, can you tell us a little bit about how you've been approaching selling travel during maybe these last couple of months, now that people are starting to get ready to, explore again?
Sure. I really hadn't been doing too much active marketing towards families with special needs, figuring that these families have enough on their plate with just trying to manage, home learning and home therapies and just getting through day-to-day stuff. So I wasn't doing a lot of active marketing, but letting people come to me when they're feeling comfortable enough to start thinking about the travel. And then as people start coming, really having, frank and honest discussions about, these are the things that you may encounter, and also having discussions with the kids. Is this something, that you guys are interested in? How can we make this fun? And just setting some realistic expectations about what they can expect on their trip.
Excellent. Yeah. And Jessica, how have you been approaching selling family travel during this time period?
Most important was just staying in touch with people, and clearly nobody was ready to travel April, May, June, July of last year. Nobody. But I tried to stay in touch. Just send a note, pick up the phone. How are you doing? How are the kids? How's virtual school going? We don't have summer camps. What are you doing? And that was really helpful. I'm here for you when you're ready to travel. And I think that was the most important thing that we all did.
And I'm guessing in these last couple of months, you are now seeing people start asking, how is that going just since the vaccine rollout? What has happened?
I mean, just even in the past 2 weeks, I've seen a huge, huge increase. I mean, still a couple cancellations here and there. Some people, Nicole, to your point, Hawaii, somebody's like ready to fly, but not that far. And that's personal choice. What happens in those 4 to 5 hours, the difference in the plane, I'm not sure. But so some people were still a little hesitant, but a lot of incoming, oh my gosh, I forgot it's spring break. Or we do want to go somewhere this summer. So it's really starting to come in quickly for inbound, and then everybody wants to rebook for 2022. I think it's going to be a huge year, and I think it's going to be sold out soon.
Nicole, are you seeing the same thing in these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've had a lot of leads come in the last few weeks. I think for me, it's definitely, working with the families who are very used to going to the same place every time to have the same experience. People with autism need that same regularity of routine. And, I'm really needing to walk through the procedures with a family, like say to Disney. There's not going to be any parades or fireworks or shows at this time, so these things are going to be different, and to set that expectation ahead of time. But a lot of the families are still ready to go despite having things be a little different than normal. So
yeah, I'll be visiting Disney. I was invited as press at the end of April. We'll see. I'm going with the family, so we'll see how that goes. Now, Jessica and Nicole, you mentioned Hawaii. Have you seen a lot of trips as well to Florida? Let's not think about the spring break in Miami Beach. Aside from that.
I was horrified watching the news. Actually, it's funny. I had just traveled to Florida, and funny, Rainer, to your point, my son was still on virtual school, so I'm like, let's do it there. But I was joking. I'm like, this peninsula is going to sink. Florida is sold out through April. So if anyone can find some space out there, that's great. Florida is absolutely huge. And I think it's just, everyone has their different views of what they're ready for and not. And because Hawaii is still the U.S., they're still very comfortable with that. They're comfortable knowing that they need, a COVID test prior and, switching islands and all of that. But I am seeing a huge increase in Hawaii. It's incredibly popular. You can spread out. There's so many outdoor activities to do. I mean, you're not in your room in Hawaii, and I think that's a big part of it. And I'm seeing a lot of availability becoming very limited there.
Yeah,
and to that point, by the way, I wanted to make a quick comment about, again, the expectations that are there. I think there's still a belief, and again, the advisors here would know better than I, but I'm certainly hearing that the expectation is, oh, the airfares will be cheap. And I think it's gotten in their head that, hey, this COVID is off, now there's discounts everywhere. And I think, there's a lot of education that needs to take place. Like, okay, if you think you're going to get a summer rental or go to the national parks and find yourself alone, that is
not happening.
That vision is long gone. So I think,
the morning shows did that.
Yeah,
they were talking about all these deals, and I'm like screaming at the TV. Yeah. I'm like, there's no deals. Like, everybody sold out.
Yeah.
The morning shows are very bad about that.
Yeah.
They get someone on and said, oh, these are some of the great places to go, yet there's no inventory. So it does create this kind of false
and national parks. I mean, that's tough any year. Yeah, and now with people wanting to explore the outdoors.
And it's no longer like, oh, it's COVID, it's going to be relatively easy, we don't have to do this right away. Like, yes, you do.
Yeah, and it's crazy because so many clients are now booking so close in because they were waiting, and they're going to realize they're going to have to start booking way out again. Yeah, so that's probably going to change as well. Especially,
one thing I saw actually this week, car rentals are way up.
Oh yeah,
not a surprise there. But even train travel, Alaska, despite the moratorium on cruise ships, is seeing I'm sure you're on a ton of traffic for land trips and the railroads, and so these are destinations that have been served so well by the cruise lines, and I'm glad to hear that Alaska is not completely reliant on that audience. So Fairbanks has been one of those cities that's benefited. A whole bunch of smaller towns across the United States have popped up literally almost out of nowhere and have become relevant and difficult to get accommodations.
And now, have you seen, any one of you, have you seen a lot of bookings? Because this is what I've heard from the advisors I've been speaking with a lot, to the Caribbean and Mexico. Is that starting to be of interest to family travelers typically? Jessica, you wanted to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, right now you don't need a test for Mexico to get in, and that was probably one of the first destinations we were selling when people were coming back, not only domestically or internationally, but as a #1 destination. Plus, there's so much product there, and there's so much great product, and there's such a big price range for it. So, it meets everybody's budget. But we're doing a lot of villas, a lot of Caribbean, Anguilla, Turks and Caicos. I mean, it's all really popular right now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And Nicole, are your family clients looking a little bit ways out, or?
They're mostly staying stateside. I have a ton of people looking into Florida right now. Tradewinds Island Resort is very autism friendly. Alice Horn with Villa Key has the homes, the autism friendly homes in the Orlando area. Those are really big because you can, if you have a guide dog, you can bring your dog with you. And again, it's self-contained. It has its own pool. It has its own kitchen, so you can kind of self-contain and stay safe that way. So Florida is big for me, but not too much internationally right now.
Excellent. And now during the last few months, what were some of the destinations that clients were just suddenly daydreaming about? Anyone can respond. Jessica, Rainer, Nicole, what did you guys hear?
Sure. Well, daydreaming, everybody, not even just families, everybody wants to get back to Europe. We are
Yeah.
missing Italy, and we are missing Greece, and we are missing France. So that's it. I think number one, just, they want to get back there. But, there's also this, well, we haven't traveled in a year or two. So where do we really want to go? So we're seeing a little bit more exotic interest, Galapagos and Africa, to name some.
So, and are those new destinations on your radar that you hadn't been booking before, or?
No, I don't think there's a new, as far as dream trip, I think people are still wanting to get back to those destinations I just mentioned. But a trend I am seeing, which I actually really love, is more stateside, because we have some amazing resorts. Arizona is incredibly popular right now. Again, you can spread out, great pools, you can go hiking and jeep touring and all these activities that you want to do. So I actually love the focus on the U.S. right now. It's been fun, and it's been fun and interesting to rediscover all this great product that we have.
And
To piggyback on what Jessica just said, Arizona is very big right now too, especially the Mesa area, being the world's first autism certified city. I mean, they really have done an excellent job certifying, I think, over 50 destinations within the Mesa area for autism families. So that's a huge spot for autism families to try and travel to, because it's warm. Again, lots of spaces to spread out. Great resorts. Yeah, we love Mesa.
Excellent. Now,
And easy to get to.
yes. Yeah. Now, do you think this trend of traveling within the U.S. is going to still be, I mean, obviously people have always traveled, stateside, but do you think it's going to stay as strong in the next couple of years after we're more acclimated to this landscape?
I think so. I mean, definitely, because I think there's still some people who are going to be very hesitant to travel. There's a big population of that. And some people are still only wanting drive market. So until everybody's ready to get back on a plane, I think that's going to be the next step for those who are hesitant. And then from there, what I hope is those who are more international travelers, I hope they realize, let's take a long weekend away. I hope it sticks around and it increases travel. Maybe somebody only took one trip a year, maybe they'll take 1.5 or 2 trips a year.
Yeah. And Rainer, have you heard the same thing?
I think what you'll also see, I've spoken to some of our members, Amma Waterways, for example. They're going to kind of ramp up their family product because they're seeing high demand and high interest. Adventures by Disney just announced, that they're going to be offering expedition cruising. So I think, the doorway for parents and families will get wider in terms of having product availability in some of these, overseas international markets.
Yeah.
In
Well,
ways that are definitely family friendly.
That leads me to the next question. And Rainer and I speak about this a lot, is that a lot of people think Disney, or they think a beach vacation for families. Now, how do you guys speak with your clients in terms of telling them to think outside the box? I don't know who wants to be the first one. I don't know if Rainer wants to jump in with some thoughts on this.
Well, I'll leave it to the ladies, but Costa Rica, even before the pandemic, I've always said is a great opportunity for parents. I like to say they take the training wheels off. They can get the children a passport, go to a different country, but yet one where they speak English and is safe. And there's so much for children to engage with in Costa Rica. So, and as I'm sure Nicole can attest, and has worked with folks on the ground there that are making it much more friendly for children and families with disabilities. So Costa Rica, I think, is one of those spots that hopefully we'll see a big boom and increase in its visitation, particularly among families. But like I said, I'll turn that over to the panel.
Nicole,
I think Rainer's exactly right with Costa Rica. Stephanie Sheehy with Il Vaggio Travel, she's done amazing things with accessible travel for people in wheelchairs in Costa Rica. And I've been in discussions with her to head down with my son, hopefully in the next couple months, to sort of scope things out about how accessible it is for people with cognitive disabilities, sensory processing disorder, autism, even older people who may have Alzheimer's, to just kind of go through some of the activities she's deemed as accessible and see how it works, not for just physical disabilities, but also for cognitive disabilities. So I think that's a good first step for a lot of my families who are looking for international travel, very family friendly, and also has accommodations already in place for people and families with disabilities.
Excellent. And Jessica?
Yeah, it's, starting with the conversation with the client, because again, I think with COVID, everyone has their, kind of what they'll do and what they won't do and what they're comfortable with. And, I had one family who was ready to travel and ready to go to resorts, but they had to be on the ground level because the elevator was their thing. So, and sure enough, I booked them and made sure they were on the ground floor. So what is it that makes them nervous and not nervous? And then from there, they will think outside the box a little bit, because, there aren't all these little mini cottages everywhere. There's certainly a lot of product that has that, but, okay, well, would you be willing to do this? Would you willing to do that? So it's kind of baby steps to get them back going again. I mean, we're obviously, at least for me, not seeing city travel right now. So it's, okay, well, what else have you always wanted to do? And again, that kind of brings, Santa Fe back to Arizona, California. They're willing to try new things and new destinations.
I think once Europe obviously opens up again, I think one of the most wonderful trips that you can take, obviously little ones, but with teenagers, just because they're learning about a lot of this in the classroom, is a river cruise. I cannot say it enough that a river cruise is just such an amazing experience. I took my older one, who's now a junior in college, when she was 15, so it was a long time ago, and she actually wrote her college essay based on that first river cruise that she took. And it wasn't so much what she was seeing, it was the people that she met during that river cruise and how it opened up her horizons, and she realized she was no longer, she said, oh, so I'm not the center of the universe. And and it was just something about that, because it's such an intimate experience and you get to speak to the same people every night and have conversations. And then, of course, what you're seeing on these river cruises, because it's going so slowly and you're just going through these little towns, and it's just an extraordinary experience. And with Adventures by Disney and AMA, what they're doing is just incredible, just beautiful, beautiful product. And you can, even when they're 18 and over, she's gone with me, they can sit at the chef's table on the AMA ship. Really, really a lot of fun.
And look, by the way, I need to, give props to Royal Caribbean, for example. They have been very proactive in trying to get, back on the seas and so forth. And I love what they've done with these shorter trips to Coco Cay, their new island out there in the Bahamas. And that's a great way to get people kind of back and feeling comfortable and not too long. And, so there's even some innovation going on and some, forward creative thinking at the bigger lines. And, they certainly have their work cut out for them. But, some of these ships that are so focused on kind of family product, getting them back and feeling safe and welcome, not just welcome, but, safe, is, I think we'll wait to hear the reports from the media as they start going off the ships. But I'm wondering if there's any, demand there's certainly pent up demand, I think, for cruising, particularly among the loyalists. But are you seeing families, are they more timid about the cruise ships? I'm wondering from the panel, what you're hearing and seeing when it comes to the bigger lines.
Yeah, no, well, I think you're right. As far as the loyalists they're loyal. They're going again. And that, I think, for me, is more my baby boomer market. Families, they're still hesitant. They are. And I think until the ships are back in the water, which will be soon, we just don't know yet. I have a couple out there that are still holding on, but it's very far and few. Last year when all the March and April, when all the cancellations were coming through, those were the first to cancel, even before the cruise lines canceled. I just think the idea of being with, I don't want to say a mass crowd, but crowds, really,
Right.
intimidated people. And cruising was near and dear to me. I personally love it, but it's also a big part of my business. So I'm hoping it comes back, but I don't know if that's the first that will come back as far as families. I think, to your point, Adventures by Disney being on the rivers, I think that will come back. Talc Bridges on the rivers, I think that will come back. Galapagos Expedition, smaller. Then I think we'll start to see, a trickle. But, those people who love Royal Caribbean, they're going to go back on Royal Caribbean.
Yeah, and you saw the news, Royal Caribbean and Celebrity will be sailing out of Greece and Cyprus this summer. So that's going to be big.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. May have already looked into that. I'm like, put me on there.
And Nicole, did you want to add anything?
I think most of my families are going to be very hesitant. And, kids aren't eligible for the vaccine yet. Who knows when that's going to happen? So, if it's a requirement to get on a cruise ship, families may have to wait a while. I don't know how that is all going to pan out, but I think my families are very hesitant about traveling with or without a vaccine. We just don't know yet.
So one of the things, the release that we received was everyone 18 and over for Royal Caribbean and Celebrity will have to be vaccinated, and 18 and under will just have to show the negative test, because they're aware, they obviously, the families might want to get on these cruises, and with the younger ones not being able to get vaccinated, or taking a while before they will be able to get vaccinated. Yeah, that'll create an obstacle. So yeah, they've done it. I think that's very smart. It's great, to get people back on the cruise ships. I also wanted to remind the audience that they can send in their questions so the panelists can respond to. And I do have one question, Nicole, and someone is interested in the accessible autism clients, and they wonder if we can give them can we put the information in the panel discussion? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Excellent. So we'll put the email. Now, going to cruising. So you think it'll stay with the Caribbean once it does open up? You think it'll probably stay closer to home, or with this pent up demand for Europe, you think people be heading to Europe? Jessica?
I think that's a tough question. I don't know. I think it's too soon to tell. That's a crystal ball question. Because cruising for families is such an easy way. For Europe, for example, you can see 5 countries in one cruise and unpack one. So I still think there's that value in the ease. And again, I think it's a great multi-gen. Everyone can do their own shore excursions and then come back to dinner. So I do think it will come back, but maybe people will get their feet wet, just doing a round trip Miami, or, I'm here in the DC area, and I'm seeing Christmas sailings out of Baltimore, which I had never really seen before. Usually they're just here kind of in the summer months. So it's a little too soon to tell, but I sure hope it all comes back.
And Rainer, are you hearing anything throughout the association grapevine?
Well, yeah, I think we've certainly talked about cruising. Again, I applaud. I think the bigger lines, the Carnivals, the Royal Caribbeans, etc. They have the opportunity to really now MSC to capitalize on those private islands that they invested so heavily in. So I think that is a good way to bring back their loyal cruisers, but also perhaps even first-time travelers. Then you have Disney. You mentioned that you're going to Disney. I'm looking. I'm Disney's part of our association, just like so many other kind of organizations that offer completely different types of product. But there's such a litmus test. They're the barometer of how people are feeling. People, and there is an attitude like, well, Disney's not going to be crowded. Let's go now. So I think so much of it is individual preference. As Nicole said, her clientele is generally speaking more cautious. I think the caution level is going to certainly increase, but there are intrepid travelers. It's really knowing your client base. I think that's so important now. One category we haven't discussed, but certainly is big within the FTA circles, are dude ranches. They're almost all sold out. They're outdoors.
They are sold out.
They're all inclusive. We've got several dude ranch members, so I want to give them a shout out, but they have seen their business really take off. So for travel advisors that want to, look into that particular segment, there's the Duty Ranch Association, which offers, terrific information, but families are gravitating towards that product, and it's, again, kind of getting harder and harder now to find availability.
I agree with Rainer on that point, just that for families with autism and other special needs other than physical, a dude ranch is a great option because you have wide open spaces. You have activities that are happening throughout the day, which you can choose to do or not do based on comfort level or, noise level, how many people involved. My boys and I, we went out to White Stallion Ranch in Tucson last year and visited for the day. And it was just such a magical experience to see my son with autism on a horse for the first time and how great the staff was in making that happen for him. So I think that's a great option for families right now.
There's an accreditation too for the advisors who want to be accredited in selling special needs family, right, Nicole?
Yeah, there's a company called IBCCES, which is the International Board of Continuing and Educational Services. I think I missed a C. And they have a training program that that advisors can take to become what's called a CATP, a Certified Autism Travel Professional. So I've been one for a couple years now, and if you just look on the IBCCES website, you can find the link to the training program.
And I get releases quite a bit lately that a lot of the resorts in Caribbean, Mexico are starting to get accredited as well, like for special needs families.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
I think the beaches resorts are going for their third level of autism training. They reached the first, then they went to the advanced, and I think they're even going for their third level. So they're really committed to making it happen for families with autism.
And can you speak a little bit to the experience once you're there? Like, what does that mean? You just said different levels. What does that mean?
So for us, my oldest son has autism, and it's a spectrum. So it can range from anybody who is nonverbal to very high functioning. I hate that word, but and for us, it was just, I think, the little tweaks of accommodation that worked well for our family. He got hurt a little bit on his finger. He was very stressed out about it. They were very good with finding us the first aid station. They have all of their staff trained in autism awareness, so everybody's kind of looking out for, like, oh, this person might be on the spectrum. Let me make sure that I approach them in a certain way so as not to upset them. Their water park staff was amazing. He was really nervous about going on this flow rider, and they were really gentle with him and making sure that he got on his board and into the surf, no problems. And it's those kinds of experiences that I think make families with autism consider a place that has had training. It makes them go to there first before any others because they know that they're going to get the accommodations and the welcome that they need.
And that's a huge growing market for sure. So that's excellent. All these resorts getting accredited. Yeah. And Jessica, beyond the multi-generational families, have you seen multi-families, like families that have been close during this pandemic? Have you seen a lot of those bookings?
Yep, I see a lot of that. I saw, which was exciting. I saw a bit of that for festive in 2020. So that was nice to see. But do you know what I'm seeing now is moms and daughters. I have a couple of those on the books right now, and I love it. And dads and sons too, but I think the moms and daughters like to be pampered a little bit more. So seeing a big trend with that. I mean, I have a group of 4 moms and daughters already booked for Turks and Caicos this summer, and it's great. So we are seeing a lot of that. And again, during the pandemic, we've all potted together. We had our, quarantines, as we say, and we're all comfortable traveling together. I'm doing my spring break with the one family that I've been with since, the pandemic started.
Excellent, excellent. And Rainer, are you seeing any trends like that of multifamily with the people you're speaking with?
You know what? Here's what I'll reserve. I'll reserve that answer to our research study that we're going to be doing this year. I'll fall back on that. every year I look forward to our research, and I know, we've worked together on surveying the advisor community, but, consumers, giving them a chance to really tell us more. We now have some partners in place to execute that, and so I'm going to say stay tuned for what really can be some emerging trends. Right now, there's a lot of anecdotal stuff, no question about it. But I think in terms of, I'll reserve the answer to kind of longer term outlooks and projections to when we get our numbers back.
And when is that research going to come out?
Well, we're doing it over the summer.
Okay.
And it will be ready. We'd love to have it ready now, but in terms of our partners and who we work with, it'll be ready kind of early fall, September.
Excellent. That's good. That's when a lot of people are saying the travel will come back. So, start trickling in. So that's excellent. And yes, I've read through that research. It's the ones you've done in the past, and it's very.
So I'm because you see a lot of Longwoods, as I mentioned them, and there are other companies that have these kind of flash studies, and then they give you a little picture in time. But measuring trends, as Longwoods has been very valuable, and so you can really see the change happening. But we're all aware that this is fragile, right? I mean, you could have a strain of the virus, or one of the from Brazil or UK or South Africa, who knows where a variant might pop up and like derail everything. But I think with the vaccines have really opened things up in terms of people, particularly parents and families, feeling more comfortable. And it came up earlier that in terms of children getting vaccinated, I did a little investigation on this. The grandparents and the parents, it's more important for them. In fact, by the way, the medical community, they've been booking, I don't know, maybe for the two of you, if you've noticed this, but I've heard that doctors and medical staffs are booking like crazy because they're all vaccinated. So
that's funny.
they feel like unleashed. But business has definitely picked up from the medical community. So maybe that's a good marketing opportunity.
So one of the questions that has come in from the audience, and I believe they do, but if one of you can respond, do the dude ranches pay commission?
They are more and more now than they used to, because they're recognizing that they're in the travel industry. For a while, one of the beauties of dude ranches is that you feel like you're staying with cowboys and real Western, folks that aren't your kind of typical hospitality employees, but they get it. They're all inclusives. They compete with cruise lines, for goodness sake. But so yes, I think more and more of them are starting to work with advisors and offer commission. Yes.
Jessica, did you have something to say?
Yeah, no, I think, and I hope this, and Nicole, I actually went to White Stallion for New Year's, so I loved it. And it's something I love and something I want to learn more about. And I hope, again, what comes out of this pandemic is the ranches and the travel advisor community, because they weren't always agent friendly and they didn't need to be. But there's a huge education. They're not, we've been getting requests, oh, I want to go to a ranch for 3 to 4 days. It doesn't always work that way. Many of them are a 7-night stay. So we have a lot to learn about that, minimum night stays, certain days of the week, that type of thing. But I am finding a lot of them do pay commission. I would suggest you ask first before you do your work. And, another thing to keep in mind, some of them, if, ranches are a place that families will go back to again. So they will still provide you commission on rebooks, but at a much lower rate. So just something to be aware of. But I think, I hope this community of ranches and travel agents grow because, like we said earlier, they're sold out this summer. And I'm glad and I'm happy for them.
Yeah, that's what one of the advisors wrote in, said that they tried to get availability at a dude ranch and there was no availability. Now, another advisor is asking for a recommendation for a family she's booking. She's booking a family of 5. Children are 15, 6, and 3, and they want a resort in Arizona.
Oh gosh, well, Yeah, I think it depends on budget too, but I mean, the Phoenician is great. I just spent some time at the Ritz-Carlton Dove Mountain, and I have, there's museums there, and I have a private stargazing experience for my clients for this spring break. There's a great Fairmont there. I love Scottsdale. You can spend some time in Scottsdale. I like the Four Seasons Troon as well. I mean, there's just so many great options.
Nicole?
I don't know as many as you do, Jessica, but I went to the Sahuaro Lake guest ranch recently and just fell in love, and that's my dream next vacation is to just spend a week there. It's in the middle of the Superstition Mountains, and it's got a pool, it's got these little casitas, and that's my favorite place in the world right now, so I can't wait to get back.
Awesome.
And
Well,
you also have Sedona, which is gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I think we have reached the end of our session time, which is awesome. I just want to remind the audience not to forget that they will be getting an email with the recorded webinar as well as the handout. So I wanted to thank you all very, very much for taking the time to chat with me for this past hour. It's very, very informative. Whenever I speak to Rainer, Nicole, and now you, Jessica, that we've just met, I get lots of information, and it's always makes my job easier, and I become a better writer, travel writer. Anyway, so thank you all for attending the webinar, and thank you, Rainer, Nicole, and Jessica. It's been a lot of fun, and have a great weekend. Bye.
Great, thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.